everyone, it's Amanda. Today I'm going to be doing my top 10 romances of 2022 so far. Why didn't life go by this fast when I was a kid? That's my question. Not that I would want it to now that I know how adulthood is, but back then I was like, come on, where's my boyfriend? When am I gonna turn 18? And now I'm 25 and I'm like going to work every day, 40 hours a week. I'm like, this is not all that they cracked it up to be. Anyway, we have romance book recommendations to talk about today, and I am really excited because these are the best of the best. I had to narrow this down. We've got dark romance, contemporary romance, rom-coms, all the good stuff. And of course, the steamiest. You know me, I like a good steam, smut-filled time. So be sure to like and subscribe if you like that sort of content, and let's just get into the books. So first we have Eyes on Me by Sara Cate. This is the second book in the Salacious Players Club series. The first one's praised its age gap, and this one is the step-sibling trope. So in this one we follow step-siblings Garrett and Mia. Mia is a cam girl as a side hustle, and Garrett works at the Salacious Players Club, which is basically a club for kinks and sex positivity. And so one day he stumbles upon her profile and he realizes that it's her but doesn't exit. He starts talking to her privately and ends up finding out he's attracted to her. Enter a romance. So he has to go back to his parents' lake house. Super summery vibes. I really do recommend this one for the summer. So good. It's so steamy and it was just such a good ass time. He's keeping this secret from her while he's at the lake house pretending to be this guy online. And she's spilling all of her life goals and her feelings to this guy on the internet, and she just feels connected to him for some reason. She doesn't know why. Which of course it's because she does know him in real life. They just have really good banter because in real life they kind of hate each other and they're still like trying to play into that dynamic at first. And then of course everything blows up and it's just so good, so steamy, so delicious, and sort of taboo. So if you like that sort of thing, definitely recommend Sara Cate. I also really love how these have bigger topics in them. It's not just steam, although it does have a lot of it, which we love to see. But this one handles depression really well and anxiety. So I just appreciate some real life topics as well as some spicy times. Next we have probably my darkest on this list, so beware, there's lots of triggers for this one, but Twisted Heathens by J. Rose. This is a reverse harem dark romance. It's set in an asylum. We follow Brooklyn, who just gets sent to Blackwood Institute, which is supposedly the last place people go to be entered back into society. But really what's going on is some fucked up shit in here. She ends up meeting this group of guys, which one of them is her ex. She's dealing with a lot of demons and flashbacks to her past. You as the reader believe that she killed a man, but you don't know why. And there's a lot of secrets that are unraveled throughout this series. It's reverse harem done so well. We have the sweet one and the darker one. You know, all the good stuff in reverse harem. And I just love this. It has so many twists and turns, and it almost feels like an American Horror Story type vibe. So if you like that, definitely give this a go, but be sure to check trigger warnings because they are a lot in this. And all of our characters in this book deal with mental health issues, whether it be eating disorders, self-harm, depression, PTSD, just a lot of triggering topics. So that's why I mentioned that. And then the second book is actually better in my opinion. It has more of a real life spin on it. So the author actually took a prison study and made the story kind of based around this prison study, and it is so wild, and the whole history of this asylum gets revealed in this book, and it is a masterpiece. It kind of reminds me of Shutter Island in a way, but also American Horror Story again. Just really good, so unique. I just really love this series, and I can't wait for the next one to come out. It comes out really, really soon, and I think it's the finale if I'm not mistaken, but I'm not sure, don't quote me. These ones also have a really, really good playlist if you're into that, and they're on KU. The next one's another reverse harem. We have Find Me and Save Me by Ashley Rostek. Love this freaking series. I'm sure you've heard me talk about it if you've been here for a minute, but it is one of my favorites of the year so far. So we have Shiloh. She was being stalked by this man, and the man came into her house, murdered her whole family in front of her, and then she got away. So she's in the witness protection program, and she ends up moving to Arizona, bought her own house. Now she's kind of just hiding. He's still out there, ready to get her. He gets ya! So you're kind of in suspense in this book, and it is so good. I stayed up all night reading these. I did not put them down. I can't wait for August for the third one to come out because they do end on cliffhangers. Just a warning, but it's worth it. So her next door neighbors are the love interest. They're all brothers. We have twins and then 2 other brothers, and they all have different personalities. You know, the harem is done right in this one as well. I wouldn't give you a bad harem. Trust and believe. I would not give you a bad harem, but these are the sweetest guys and I love them. These are also on KU. Basically everything that I'm showing you today is on KU, so you're welcome. I live to serve. You need to read these because they're short and just trust me. We also have Nightmare Trope, which is one of my favorite things ever. I love Hurt Comfort, but when it's Hurt Comfort for nightmares too, I'm a goner. Deceased, 5 stars immediately if the nightmares are done right. And in this one, it definitely is. We have the thing where she screams and then the guy comes over and says, what's wrong? And gets in her bed. You know what I mean? Like, that's the shit we like to see. Next, we have probably my favorite book of the year that will be #1 on the charts in January, and that is June 1st by Jennifer Hartmann. This is a contemporary romance and it has darker themes and triggering content, so beware of that. The triggers are definitely suicide and death of loved ones. Just a warning. This one made me sob for days. I have a vlog on it where I cry for a long time. If you wanna, you know, see that, go ahead and watch that vlog. But this book is so good. It's so emotional and I think it's one of the best love stories that I've ever read. It has some taboo qualities because Brant, our main character, is adopted into the family and he falls in love with his foster sister. So it's so good. In this one we follow Brant from age 6 to adulthood, and we also follow June, who is a baby in the beginning and then into adulthood. They're 6 years apart and they are the main love interests. But in the beginning of the book we follow Brant only, and he really shines as the main character. He has a very tragic backstory. So the very first chapter of this book we learn that his mom is being abused by his father and she's gonna get them out of the situation, but she's a little too late, and he ends up murdering her and taking his own life in front of his own son, who's upstairs, but he comes downstairs and witnesses the aftermath of all this. So he has a lot of trauma and he gets adopted by his next door neighbor, who is his best friend, and they are expecting a baby girl on this same exact night. So that's the premise. I won't give too much away, but the love story is so beautiful and you get to follow their whole lives together, and it's just stunning. If you take any recommendation from this video, take this one. Next we have my only traditionally published on this list, and that is Delilah Green Doesn't Care by Ashley Herring Blake. This is a sapphic romance and it is perfection. We have wedding drama. In this one we follow Delilah. She is a New York City photographer and she always felt like she didn't fit in with her stepfamily. They never got along and her stepsister always bullied her growing up, and she's never really hashed it out with her. So one day she gets a call from her stepsister, who's getting married, that she needs her to photograph her wedding. So she ends up going back to her small town, Bright Falls, and falls in love with one of her stepsister's bridesmaids. It's hot, it's funny, and it's everything I wanted in a wedding drama type story. And also Claire, the love interest, has a child, and it was just so good. But we also got to see the family come together and the 2 sisters kind of hash out their past and really talk it out and figure out that maybe they misunderstood each other their whole lives. Next we have another darker romance, Wretched by Emily McIntyre. This one is the 3rd book in the Never After series where the villain gets the girl, or in this case the villain gets the guy. This is bad girl, good guy trope. In this one we follow Eveline, the wicked witch, and she is in this crime family. She is very important to the family, but nobody gives her enough credit where credit is due. Then we have Nicholas, who is the love interest. He is an undercover Fed who obviously wants to infiltrate, find the supplier. I loved this one. I thought it was so good. It was really steamy, girls in control vibes. She's a boss bitch. She's got badass energy. Definitely recommend if you want a strong heroine. All these books are great. They're all standalones, but I recommend any of them. My favorite is probably this one, but I love Scarred too, which is a Lion King one, and that one follows Scar as the villain. and it's more of a royal family type vibe, whereas this one's more kind of mafia. Then we have a bully romance, Things I Wanted to Say But Never Did by Monica Murphy. I loved this one because it was just mostly smut, but it was really good, okay? And it was also a boarding school, private school type vibe, and it just had a lot of bullying in there, and who doesn't love a good entertaining bully romance? I don't know, it's not everyone's cup of tea, but I loved it. It could be said that it is repetitive, and I would agree, but also I just liked it so much that I was like, yes, another scene. In this one we follow Summer and Whit. Summer ends up meeting Whit at a party in which her mother and his father are having an affair, and he ends up confronting her and being like, you know that your mom's having an affair with my dad, and he starts bullying her right then and right there, calling her a whore, all these things, but they have a moment and then they never speak to each other again. But their whole family blew up basically, so his dad got a divorce to the mom, and then her family, which consisted of her mom and her stepdad and her stepbrother, got split up too, so it's just all a mess. But she ends up being put into this boarding school called Lancaster Prep, where Whit is super important because he's a Lancaster, and the Lancasters are basically the founders of this private school. So he's in control here, and she's the new girl at the school, and they end up reconnecting, and it is so fun. It's so fun. And of course we also have a Penelope Douglas on this list. I still like Credence a little bit more, I think, but I'd have to reread this one. In this one we have bad girl, good guy. We follow Arrow and Hawk. Arrow is the bad girl in this book and Hawk is the good guy. So Arrow is trying to gather money for her siblings, and she just has had a harder life, and Hawk is a popular kid. He comes from money even though his parents did not. They have a romance when they end up in a predicament with the cops. They run away and they end up in Carnival Tower, which is a notorious hiding place in the town, and it remains unseen. It gets a little bit spooky, a little bit creepy. He ends up getting to know Arrow more. Behind this girl that everyone thinks she is a person that he really, really likes. And then she ends up also seeing behind his goody two-shoes kind of vibe. I just really enjoyed this story, and I would definitely reread it. I cannot wait for the next book to come out. And lastly, we have Gleam by Raven Kennedy. This is the third book in the Plated Prisoners series. I am obsessed with this series. I know I just talked about it in my last video, but this is a new video, okay, and I have to talk about it again because this series has me by the throat, and you need to read it if you haven't already. If you haven't given it a chance because maybe you didn't like the first book because it didn't have any romance in it, and you were like, why do people call this a fantasy romance? I'm with you. I'm with you. I was like, what is going on? When the first book came, I was like, what is going on with this woman on woman hate? But I get it now. The first book serves a purpose, and then it just gets so good in the second and third book. Can't wait to read Glow. But this series basically is a King Midas retelling. We follow Auren, who is the king's favored. She is gold head to toe, and she is basically a royal saddle, which is what they call sex workers for the king. So the very first book, we're kind of getting to know Auren and her character, what she's been through in her past, and get to know the dynamic that she has, because there's a lot of woman on woman hate in the first book, which I hated. I just hate that in books, but I get it with this one because it does serve a purpose later. But I still did not enjoy that part. Basically everybody hates her because she is the favored, so they're very jealous, and she gets treated so much better in their opinion, and she's actually locked in a cage. She doesn't have any interaction really. She's very lonely, and you just get to watch what unfolds and get to know what is really happening in this kingdom right now. And then the romance comes in the second and third books, so stick with it. If you like Auren as a character, you have to read the second book and give it a chance, because Gleam gets steamy, girl, and it is so worth it. And I just love Auren as a character. But those are my favorite books so far this year. Leave a comment below your favorite book of the year so far so I can also read it, and I will see you in my next video. Bye guys!